I felt like talking tonight about loss in this course on surrender. Seems like it's a big part of surrender. When there's something that you really want or you really expect will continue to be and be a part of your life, something you expect that's going to happen, and then it doesn't. That's loss. Loss is a powerful experience, powerful human experience, and no one gets away without experiencing some loss of some sort. It's just structured that way. We live in time. Things keep having endings. Have you noticed? Things keep ending. Things keep beginning too, of course. But sometimes the endings are hard for us. And so loss is a powerful spiritual threshold. It is a place where we enter the temple. There's nothing quite like loss to show us that we're not in control. Whatever illusion we had, that we are. And of course, we're deeply invested in that illusion. I think that's really the fundamental basis for a sense of self, is that we have agency, we can do things, we can anticipate things, we can make things turn out right, we can make things happen, we have agency, all those important things to being human. And yet, loss happens. And, our sense of self suddenly feels groundless. And so, kind of in rebellion against that, our sense of self can feel injustice about it. Like something wrong happened. I didn't get what I wanted. Or this person who's so dear to me is gone. It's perhaps a deeper experience of loss than just not getting what you want, but that is just a form of getting what you want, getting someone to be with you. Suddenly they're gone. And so, our mind can create a sense of injustice out of it. And it's completely understandable, some of these senses of injustice. My goodness, I can't imagine some losses that people go through. Loss of their child, loss of their country, loss of entire cities and many of the people who lived in them as they're bombed out or burnt out. I've never experienced any of that, but I witness it. And I have no judgment against people's outrage or sense of injustice. It seems to be natural. And yet, I also know with another part of me that there is no promise. There are no guarantees. No one has written us a promise that says, our spouse is going to live to a ripe old age, or we're going to stay married, or that we won't survive our children, or that our home will stay erect, or communities. There's no guarantee. It's hard to live with that as a human being. And one of the values of reading about history is you read about what people go through in this way, even if you haven't experienced such catastrophic loss yourself. But there's often a sense of injustice. Sometimes there's a sense of having deserved it in some way, some blame. You turn the blame against yourself, which is a funny way of maintaining control, isn't it? I did it. It was my fault. That way you don't have to face the even more difficult truth that I had no control. There was no control here. If you make yourself at fault. So, the sense of outrage or injustice makes the other at fault. There's somebody out there who did this, who's responsible. And then there's no person involved. Sometimes we have to make God responsible. It can be an anger towards a God or the feeling of being punished. Way. And when I think about this whole experience, and as I've noticed it in my own experience of loss, there's like a question. There's a deep, deep question that arises. Does my heart matter? If these things are so dear to me and they disappear, they're destroyed, does my heart matter? Does what I love, what I care for, what I want present in my life, does that matter? And it's deeply disturbing to consider that maybe it doesn't. That maybe the world is just an indifferent place. And that your desires are just your desires. So when I've gone there, here's where I've come out. I won't leave you there. I'll tell you where I've come out. Grief is a powerful thing, and you have to let yourself go through it. Often that means crying, which is a form of surrender, actually surrendering to the wisdom of the body, knows how to handle loss, knows how to be shattered. Oscar Wilde said, hearts are made to be broken. So you have to let your heart break. And there's some wild, incredible wisdom to that. So when your heart breaks, you finally let go. And it's a bodily thing. The people who are dear to us, they're like in our body, and our tears have to in some way do the letting go. It doesn't just happen through the mind. We can't think ourselves out of our grief. It's such a embodied thing. It's why I say, do our hearts matter? Because our heart is a way of talking about how the things that we've invested our life in are actually embodied. They're actually a part of our body. And for them to be gone requires a bodily process of slowing down, almost like time stands still, of being in a daze, and then melting, having the resistance melt. And sometimes some anger, some rage, sometimes just being numb. There's a whole process that's worth respecting. And there's something important about not avoiding the pain of loss. There's a deep, deep lesson, one that goes way beyond the mind, in the pain of loss and the surrender that has to happen. And, when we resist loss, and I don't know who doesn't on some level resist loss, because it is such an affront to our sense of self. But it's if we stand in the flow of life and say, stop, you know, kind of grow a little dead, grow a little depressed. And it's okay. It's just often what is. You go through it and you think you come out of it, and you go through it again and you think you come out of it, and so forth. It's not something for the mind to judge. But the other thing that I want to mention of where I've come out is that love is very close to grief. If you don't love, you won't grieve, right? And there's a subtle kind of shift that I think is really important, because loss and grief can liberate you. It can be a time of awakening. It can also sink you. It can also sink you really deeply. And it's a very subtle shift that makes all the difference, which is the recognition that right in your grief is love. That if you didn't love, you wouldn't grieve. And when you refuse grief, in some sense, you refuse love. And you refuse the process, the natural process by which the human heart passes through loss. And comes to the other side. And what does the other side look like? When you pass through loss, you realize that everything that you have, everything that is in your life is not in your control, and it's a gift. And you can feel grateful. That's the choice you actually have, is to recognize that these things that matter to you are gifts for as long as they last. And there's no guarantee that they will last as long as you want them or even think you need them. It's the kind of hidden treasure in loss, is the gratitude that can come out of it. The realization that maybe you didn't have the rest of your life with someone, but you had some time. You got to know them for the time that you had before they were gone. Or if there's some kind of situation, I think of some kinds of circles of friends that I've had in my life that have been amazing. And then something happens and you move or they move or something, it doesn't work anymore. It kind of falls apart. Maybe there are pieces of it, the relationship with this friend or that friend, but this whole just ends. Appreciate what you have while you have it. Surrender to what is. Part of surrendering to what is recognizing what you have, what is present. I don't suspect I'm going to lose this until I'm blind, but I could be blind. That could happen to me in my life. But there's just, when the sunlight is coming through leaves, and I look at that green, and I see this transparent leaf, something in my heart just is joyful. Some kind of deep affinity there with that green. Yes, it could be lost. For a moment, for the moment, the purpose of my life is to see the green and to let it touch me. See, this is kind of part of the mystery, is that green is not outside of what I am. It's not outside of consciousness, is it? It's appearing in the very luminous space of knowing that I am. And it's my heart that responds with that kind of, wow, I love this. It's possible. It's possible to feel that love with everything that is. I think that's awakening. I think that's full awakening, to be absolutely in love with everything simply because it is. Short of that, there can be many moments of just letting yourself fall in love with what is. Fall in love with the person in front of you. You know, and I don't necessarily mean that in the usual way. If you want to fall in love with me, it could be frustrating in the kind of the, what should I say, the fantasy sense. But there's a real sense, like, of appreciation, of deep appreciation, that just like opens the field of your heart. You feel that sort of appreciation. And there are people, I bet, in your lives that do that. Maybe not always a person that it's supposed to do that does it, but they're often beings, I'll even say, not just people. I wouldn't want to leave Kiva out, my dog. She's great. And so being human, there can be a kind of fear that surrounds our loving. That's our attachment. That's our thinking that we have to hold on, thinking that we won't be okay if we don't have this, person, if we don't have this situation. That kind of shadow of fear. It's so human. No judgment. But it's often going through experiences of profound loss that open our heart to noticing its own power to bless, its own power to enjoy the moment and not create expectations about eternity. So this is like, a profound experience of surrender. And I'll also say this is where I come out with this, is that I believe that love, that appreciation, is in fact the deepest, our deepest nature, and the deepest nature of being awake, being aware. And mostly we don't experience that because so much is in the way. So many assumptions, so many illusions, so much aversion, so much grasping, all those things that the mind is up to obscure our nature. For some reason, and I wasn't really sure why, I kind of went into pointing out the nature of empty awareness today in the meditation. It's not as empty as it seems. I think empty is how it first appears because it's formless. There's nothing in awareness itself that one can see or make an object. So in that sense, yes, it's empty. But as we stop resisting what is, with all of its almost momentary loss, every single moment is actually a loss. No wonder we create an ego. Actually, look at our moment to moment experience. It's like, where was that meditation we just did? Where did it go? It's gone. It's dropped into the void we call the past. Where is the moment when I started this talk? It's gone. It's gone. Our very consciousness, our very awareness sits in this place of eternal now, while everything it knows is constantly being lost to the past. A strange thing to be in time that way. And so we couldn't tolerate that without our minds creating all sorts of models of who we are and what we own and what's going to happen tomorrow and how to make that happen and all these systems that we've devised to make the whole world work. Of course, we have to do all of that. But it all covers over this truly jaw-dropping reality of every single instant is gone the moment you notice it. It's already leaving. That might be the ultimate heartbreak if you let it touch you, if you actually let it in. And I believe that is actually the work of insight meditation, is to bring the mind so into the present moment to experience that depth of loss. It's transformative. So, along with gratitude, I might mention humility as another quality that arises out of loss, out of deep loss. The sense I'm not in control, I don't know, and it's okay. That isn't how everybody comes out of loss, I have to say, unfortunately. Many people come out of it and there's a sense of not okay. But there is a possibility when the heart breaks of coming out on the other side and realizing the luminous space of knowing that you are is still intact, that all the capacity to love is still there. All the capacity to meet the moment with tenderness and courage is there. Nothing took that away. It just seemed like it went away because one was grieving or because one was refusing to grieve. And it's just the nature of human beings that even that is not so much in our control. How we come out on the other side of grief. If you're lucky, maybe you'll run into a Dharma talk that will help, but even that, it's kind of a fortunate thing. It's kind of a fortunate thing to run into a teaching that so, dare I say, embraces the reality of loss that is the experience of us as physical beings in time. Who knows? Maybe it will be something else someday once we're dead. But for now, we're physical beings in time. And learning how to keep showing up and loving in such a unstable and unpredictable world.